I know that by giving and connecting, that I also have the opportunity to learn from my peers. And I think that it's that idea of collaborative leadership. I can't do it by myself. So I selfishly want everyone on board with me.
We are surrounded by content. Content shapes who we follow, how we lead, what we buy, and even what we believe. Welcome to the Content Generation Podcast, a class intercom production where we focus on the stories that come to life in schools all over the world. We highlight the students, educators, and communities who share the content that shapes our future. Welcome back to the Content Generation Podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and I am here with Dr. Jill. Dr. Jill, we are into the school year. Things are running.
Definitely. It's just a great time of year. I love fall and as the seasons change and everything exciting about this new school year.
My wife is a teacher, and she loves the opening line in Sleepless in Seattle when they talk about bouquets of sharpened pencils, and this sort of like you can almost smell them sharpened. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that metaphor is still not lost in 2024. But it's fun to be back in the school year, and we have a really fun guest, one that you know really well, Christopher Villarreal. And he joins us from his new school that he joined in January of this past year, Papillion La Vista.
Yeah, Dr. Christopher is just a great person, genuine person. I originally met him when he was working in Kansas, and it's just been really great to see his leadership, no matter where he's been in the classroom, as a school PR communicator, and then really a leader in the industry, and how he's influencing those around him in everything he does.
I am super impressed with him. As I mentioned, I'm impressed with what he did in Canspra. A huge shout out to our friends at Canspra. I know they're cheering for him, but also coming into a new state, a new school district to him, and really embracing so many different things at the same time is really incredible to watch.
Yeah, he's not afraid to jump in and try something new, but he does it with diligence and thoughtfulness, and then he does it, and he puts his leadership behind it, and everything he touches turns to gold, from what I can tell.
So we did talk about during the podcast some of what he did to assemble a lot of school districts around him for a half day. And Jill, you had some impact in doing that, in his invitation to you. I think that's a really great stance that he took.
Yeah, I think again, it just shows his leadership. We have a ton of clients here in Nebraska, where we first started and where our global headquarters are located. But to see really the metro area of Nebraska really come on board and see him take the lead in that, so he can help not only his own school district be very successful, but for those around him. And I think, again, that's just a testament to who he is, not a selfish person at all, but really a true leader, and that he wants to make those around him even better and help make their jobs easier and more impactful.
Dr. Jill, you get a lot of chance to help people empower and equip those around them. And it's really fun to see people in school PR do that, because just the job of communication isn't the whole job, right? Like that's not what it's about. It's about getting so many other stories to be told. Jill, you've been doing that lately in so many different ways, one of which is the Content Generation Workshop, and would love to highlight some of the things you have coming up there.
Yeah, for sure. So on October 16th, we'll be hosting our 5th annual Content Generation Workshop. We'll have probably about 150 students, I think we have to cap out at, here in Lincoln, Nebraska, as well as a couple satellite locations in other states. And last year we had people from 30 states streaming in. We're getting close to that mark again this year. You can still register. And so it's going to be an exciting day. We have some incredible speakers coming in, and then it's very active too. So students are getting challenges all day long. But I would encourage adults adults. We always have a lot of adults that stream in as well. Maybe just follow along during the day, listen to the great speakers. You'll be able to see the really cool content that students are creating. And it's one of my favorite days of the year. It's almost as good as Christmas. So.
Awesome. Yes, it is. It's super fun to see the in-person interaction that happens. But the more I've been able to follow from schools literally all around the world and the impact that that's having, it's really fun to see the content generation really take off. And with that, I hope that all of you enjoy this interview with Dr. Christopher. Welcome back to the Content Generation Podcast. I am excited to introduce my friend, Christopher Villarreal. And we got to spend some time together last week in his school district, and it was a great time. But Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm really excited to just talk to you about all the things because I love talking, as silly as that sounds. And it's nice to just get to riff off of each other and have a conversation and wax philosophically sometimes because things are always moving so fast. You don't always have a chance to do that.
Well, I want to get to some of the things that I see you doing, I see your district doing, and the leadership you're taking even beyond the school district that you're in. But first of all, I want to get a sense for how you ended up in school public relations. Like, what was that journey like for you?
It was an unlikely journey, to be honest. When I was younger, when I finished high school and all of that good stuff, and I didn't quite know where I was headed, I went to Alaska, of all places, and there was a community college there. Now it's actually an extension of the University of Alaska, but it was at the time called Prince William Sound Community College in Valdez, Alaska. And so I moved there and I went to the community college there, and I was originally from San Diego, where I went to a school for creative and performing arts. And I was a classic art major my first 2 years of high school and a digital art major my second 2 years. And that was at the time a blossoming field. There wasn't a whole lot going on with digital art in the
Mhm.
late 90s, early 2000s. And so learned a lot through that. And then when I got to college, I kind of continued to study that. And because I had those skills, that's the field that I started working in. So I started working in graphic design and marketing while I was going to community college. And when the time came for me to transfer then to a 4 year school, I had planned to become a communications major. And my grandmother, who I rely on for all sorts of things, she said to me, "Don't be a communications major. There's too much unknown in where you're going to go with that. You need something that has a solid job when you finish." And so I was
Okay.
like, okay, what do I like? So I did a little bit of brainstorming, and I knew that I really loved working with kids and helping kids learn. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to become a teacher, and I'm going to teach high school ELA, and part of that included all of the communications coursework. So it was a little bit of the best of both worlds there. And so I ended up finishing that degree, and the entire time I worked as a freelancer doing design and doing some marketing consultation. And I taught for several years and then started making my way up through school administration. And I had the opportunity when I was in Houston working for Spring Branch ISD to intern in the district office in the summer with their communications department. So they had a program where they selected 8 aspiring leaders, is what they called it, to work in the district office over the summer, and they assigned each person to a department. And so I got assigned to the communications department there. And that was my first introduction into school PR. And so as I continued to make my way through the channels of leadership, I had the opportunity to combine my worlds and be the director of communications for Spring Hill schools in Spring Hill, Kansas. And so I officially started working in school PR at that time and did that. I was there for 2 years doing that, and then recently had the opportunity to come to Omaha and join the Papillion La Vista Community Schools team as the director of communications. So it's been a journey. This is, I think, my 15th or 16th year working in public education. So it's been a long
Wow.
journey that I just
Yeah.
did my best to convey succinctly.
Yeah, well, and I know, we got to connect when you were in Kansas, and you really helped that community, helped that school district to really advance, and so I think you've left them in a really good place, and I know that there's a lot of folks in Kansas, Canspra, that miss you there, but it's fun to see you in this new role as well.
Yeah, shout out to Canspra. I love my Canspra friends, and it was nice. I was able to. I had a mid-year transition because my successor or predecessor, excuse me, in this role, Annette Iman, she retired after 30 plus years of service to the district and in school PR, and so I my transition here was a January transition, which is not usual in the public school world because we always follow the school calendar. And so that was a little bit of a challenge, but I was lucky in that I was able to go back to Kansas and join Canspra for their spring conference last year, last school year, so in 2024. And then I got to see all of my Canspra friends again this summer at Inspra in Seattle. So still very connected to my friends in Canspra, but I'm also getting really connected with everyone here in Nebspra as well. They've been a really welcoming group, and it's been great to start making those connections here to have that local support.
Yeah. So, as someone who studied graphic arts and you've come through, communications, and as an educator in the classroom, what sort of tied all of that together for you in this role?
I think that it sounds cheesy to say, and I know it, and I hear how cheesy it is, but it always comes back to the students and helping to improve things for the students that we serve. I tell everyone that I work with, and I've said this for a really long time, no matter what role I'm in, it's a service role. We're here to serve our students and their families and help enhance their educational experience. And whether I'm in the classroom or I was a curriculum administrator for a while, if I'm doing that, if
Hmm.
I'm in the school PR and comms role, whichever spot I'm in, I'm still serving our students. And I think that's what really does tie it all together is, you take these different skills because in school PR, the skill set is different than as a curriculum administrator or as a classroom teacher or whatever the case may be. You take all those different skills and you're able to apply them to that ultimate goal of serving our students.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I think your grandma was right in getting you some experience that sort of connects those things together.
Yeah.
I think you, in a long way, got a communications degree out of it, but a really comprehensive one. So maybe she
Yeah.
was really wise in that.
Yes, she and in her not defense, not that I have to defend her. I'm going to have to tell her you said that too because she'll love to hear that she was right. But in her support of what she said, she also was she worked in education. She worked in higher ed. She
Mm,
was a community college president for 30 years. So she definitely values the education field and the work. And I think that's where I get a lot of that from is from her and from the work that she did to constantly be serving the students in her schools and serving the communities in which her schools were located. And so I think that's where I got a lot of that from is from watching her and the work that she does and knowing that you have the opportunity to impact so many people in the work that you can do in a role like this.
yeah, yeah. No, I love that. So one of the things that I've gotten to, just as I've gotten to know you, I've been able to observe the way you've helped lead in Canspra. That community has a high respect for you. And you've only been in Nebraska since January, yet there's people sort of recognizing what you're doing here in your district. And, we got to spend, a better part of a half day with you last week. Uh, Tell me a little bit about why you invited a group together to talk about all of your experiences advancing social media, pushing those forward. That's a bold step to invite the neighboring districts into your district. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was really lucky in Kansas to have been so welcomed by the Canspra group. And I philosophically, I love people. I love talking to people. I love getting to know people, hearing people's experiences. And so I did quickly connect with people all over the state of Kansas and built a huge network there in the time that I was there. And so it was a little bit intimidating to come to Nebraska and to be somewhere where I don't have all of those connections. And it's funny because the first NEBSPRA meeting that I went to featured a presentation by none other than Dr. Jill Johnson. And I saw Dr. Jill, and I know Dr. Jill from all sorts of things, and so that immediately made me feel at ease with that group. And it was nice because she knew people in that group and helped with some of those initial introductions when I was there. And from there, I've just continued to grow that network because, like I said, I am a people person and I love getting to know people and talking to people, hearing about what they're doing, hearing about what strategies they're using to promote their school districts is another thing that I love to do. And it turns out that Dr. Jill was here in NEBSPRA to try to expand the market for class intercom in the state of Nebraska. And I had used class intercom in Kansas and was interested in bringing that over to my new district here in Papillion La Vista. And so it was great for my team who was there with me to see that presentation, along with everyone else from Nebraska that was there and got to see that presentation. And Dr. Jill does what she does and was able to get several people on board. And with that, I was thinking about the onboarding piece and the strategizing piece and how can we collectively think through how to make this the best it can be, because it's something new for a lot of people. And I had that idea when I was at Inspira and running around like a crazy person and talking to everyone. And I was sprinting past the class intercom booth and I saw Dr. Jill and I stopped and I said, "Hey, I have this idea. What if we do kind of a metro area strategizing session for class intercom so that we can pull people together to collaborate?" And she said, "I love that idea." And I said, "Okay, great, we'll talk more." And then I ran away because at Inspire, that's what you have to do. You're just constantly going from place to place. And we followed up on it. We were able to invite several districts from around the Omaha metro area, but also from a few places across the state as well, and bring them together for this strategizing session. And it was a powerful half day. And I feel like I can say that because all I did was work with Dr. Jill to put the schedule together. And we set it up in a way where we had 4 areas that we were exploring. And so we invited people who were class intercom users to present essentially a case study of how they've been doing this in their district, and then opened it up for conversation and exploration with the folks in the room. And it was incredible. The things that people shared, the way that they've used the platform, the way that they're strategizing social media as a whole was just really powerful to hear. And then those conversations that followed were even more powerful because we had those follow-up questions, or we were able to ignite ideas in each other of, hey, maybe we could try it this way. So there were a lot of
Yeah.
new ideas that came out of that strategizing session, along with a lot of admire and acquire ideas that we were
Yeah.
taking from each other.
Yeah, no, I love it. It was really fun to be a part of it, and we obviously tried to share some new things that are coming and add some value in that way. But from my lens, it's just really inspiring to see the leadership take place there to say, "Hey, let's humble ourselves and invite the neighbors over." Right? Like sometimes it's just hard to invite the neighbors over for dinner, and you did it. But then you also sort of set the table for them and said, "Hey, let's create an experience to say, honestly, if we elevate, all of us can elevate." And I think that's a really inspiring thing to get to see. And I think there were a lot of I've had a bunch of messages from your peers and colleagues from other districts who have said, "Hey, that was really helpful to just be able to talk through some of those conversations. Maybe we're inviting students to become content creators. Maybe we're just getting started trying to take our social media to the next level." But I think it's really fun to see someone like yourself really set that table. And honestly, we just got to join in.
And it was really cool. You mentioned how it takes a little bit of courage to do that and to invite your neighbors in. And there were actually some people that I'd never even met before that
Yeah.
joined us. And so that was really cool because it is easy sometimes to just invite the people that you know or the people that you talk to or are close to. And so I did that.
Yeah.
But I also invited other platform users from other areas that I hadn't met before, and they took us up on it. And I loved that because I loved getting to meet them and getting to know them and hearing about their experiences. But it is a little bit intimidating sometimes to open yourself up and be in that vulnerable space of, I'm not an expert at this. It's part of my job. It's part of all of our job. How can we help lift each other up, like you said?
Yeah, yeah. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with your superintendent. You also brought your superintendent to the meeting and introduced him. And he's a unique superintendent. So tell us a little bit about that relationship and how that's worked out.
Yeah, so here in Papillion La Vista Community Schools, our superintendent is Dr. Andy Rickley, and I feel so lucky to be able to learn from him and work with him. I am a direct report to the superintendent in our district, and so he and I have the opportunity to get together once a week to just talk about my transition, talk about the work that I'm doing, do all of that, which has been incredible. But he is also a unique superintendent in the way that he leads and the way that he supports. And again, I'm so lucky to be able to work with him. He was last year, he was named the Nebraska Superintendent of the Year, which is amazing. That was year 11 for him in our district. And, you know,
Yeah,
um, I don't think it's crazy for me to say you don't see a lot of superintendent tenures like that anymore, where a
right.
superintendent has built up the trust of the community, of the board, of the district, and is able to stay in their role for such a long time. And because he's been able to do that and lead the district in a strategic way, the district is in a better place for it. And so he loves to be involved. He also is very he puts a lot of weight on how we in our district are represented in the greater community. And
Mm,
so one of the things that he told me when I came on board that was important to him is he said, "Hey, it's I need you to start networking across the state. I need you to
mm,
get involved in NEBSPR. I need you to be involved at INSPRA." And luckily, I was already on that same path, but when we were having that strategizing session here, I just let him know that it was happening. And I said, if you want to stop by and say hi,
yeah.
I'd love that. But I know you're also busy. And that's one of the things where he makes time for it
Mm.
because he values those sorts of things. And so he did stop by and say hi and give a few words of encouragement and kindness to the group. And so I really appreciated that from him.
Yeah, he is a unique leader, and he's been there 11 years, but he's very young and a lot
Yes.
of great energy. And so I think that it's inspiring to see. But also, again, I commend your leadership, and I think that's one of the things that sometimes gets overlooked: the impact of leadership in school public relations, because it's not just crafting the message, right? Knowing the people behind all of the messages is so important, and you're certainly modeling that. And it feels like, because of your diverse background in education, that's really served you well.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. It's one of the things that um, I would say you don't always realize that you're doing it, um,
Mm,
but it is sometimes it's born of a selfish place, right?
yeah,
Because I want to get better. And one of the ways that I can get better is by connecting with those around me and opening myself up and being vulnerable with them. So that way they can be vulnerable back and we can support each other. So then if I know that so and so down the street does this really well, then I can talk to them and say, "Hey, I'd love to hear more about how you're doing that." And so that's why I say it's kind of born of a selfish place because there are things that I'm really good at, and I know that, and I'm more than happy to help people with that. I think one of the skill sets that people come to me most often for is design,
yeah,
because that's kind of what my background is in, and I'm more than happy to help folks with that. I was able to present on it at Inspira seminar last year in St. Louis, and I also did a um, mini labs webinar series with them about it, and it was really well attended and really positively received. So I give that of myself, but
mm,
I'm also taking a lot from other people,
yeah,
and that's where I say the selfish part comes in. Is I know that by giving and connecting that I also have the opportunity to learn from my peers, and I think that is a little bit at the heart of it, and that's uh, it's that idea of collaborative leadership. I can't do it by myself,
yeah.
so I selfishly want everyone on board with me.
Mm. How are you finding, as you're growing in your career? Um, Sometimes there's this sort of sense that going back to the paintbrush is something that kind of helps center you, right? And so, even with the New Yorker poster behind you with the paintbrush, but like you're sort of going back to the paintbrush at times in design. How does that help center you as a communications professional?
That is it is that's my creative space, right? And it's funny because I have that picture in the background, and that's kind of why I have that cover on my wall, is because it's a good reminder to me that you can always just start fresh. And if something's not working, or if you're just wanting a new direction, you can always start fresh with something. And in that, I love my creative space. And once you kind of end up in an elevated leadership position, a lot of those day to day tasks start getting delegated out to your team. And so you're not finding yourself as much in the creation space as you are in the strategizing and managing spaces. But every once in a while, I take those tasks for myself and I do them because it does help me recenter a little bit and help me get back in that creative space, because sometimes it can get so just utilitarian where it's like, nope, we have to
Yeah,
do this, and this. And that does suck the fun out of it a little bit. And so having the opportunity
yeah,
to go back into that creative space and do some of that work is something that brings me a lot of joy. So I like to do it. And I also, along the same line, I love teaching. And I mean, I
mm,
was a teacher. I love doing that. And so that's something else that helps me with that helps me
mm,
refocus and move away from some of the monotony is not the right word, but just some of the day to day is having the opportunity to teach, having the opportunity to talk to people, to share things that I know and have learned. And so those are both things that I think help me stay centered and focused in the chaotic world of the work that we do.
Well, I love that. Chris, as we look at your background, your in education, your leadership here, and Papillion La Vista's fortunate to have you, and we're fortunate to get to work with you and NSPRA and NEBSPRA and still your friends in CanSPRA. We've got to include them, but. No, I appreciate getting to follow you and root for everything you're doing in your new position. Thanks for being a part of the podcast.
Absolutely. I like I said at the beginning, I love talking. And so I had a lot of fun chatting with you today, and I love the Class Intercom team. And so I'm glad to have you guys as part of my journey.
Thank you.